Today's live stream is all about turnarounds. My name is Paul Tobey. Thanks for joining me for another Saturday live stream here on YouTube. Great to see you all here. Just want to give a quick shout out to those of you that have shown up early. Nice. Rich, Jerry, Fabrizio, Amodi, James, and everyone who's about to join us. Thanks for coming. I think 80% of success in anything is just showing up, especially when it comes to music. And Keith, welcome from Hawaii. There's a few of you from Hawaii, so that's great. All right, so what we're going to do today is work on turnarounds, and we're going to do it pretty much in the key of F, maybe the key of G, just to kind of give you some insights into how turnarounds work on different tunes. The tune that we're working on is from Vince Guaraldi's Charlie Brown Christmas. Basically, the sheet music that I'm about to give to you, let me throw it up on the screen right now. Here is the sheet music that we're going to be working on, and I'm going to give you a link for that in the chat right now. And I'm going to pin that to the top of the chat so that it's there throughout the session. So I've pinned the link, and on your screen you can see that, actually let me turn this part off. You can see I've put a message on the screen, free sheet music link, post it in the chat. It will be there throughout the session and will be available for free download. So what it is this piece right here called "Oh Christmas Tree." And the reason why I wanted to do this is because I think there's some neat voicings going on here which play right into our discussion about turnarounds. And I think it's good to talk in simple keys. So I think F is one of the more popular keys in jazz. So we are going to talk exclusively about that, and then maybe the key of G, like I said earlier. The way we start these things off is I play a little bit just to kind of share with you. And Fabrizio already grabbed the sheet music. That's great. If the site is a little slow, just give it some time. Sometimes we throw too many people at it at once and you can't grab your sheet music. I'll also be talking about the full arrangement of this, where I transcribed a bunch of my soloing, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. All right, let me throw the vocal mic off just so it doesn't conflict with the piano mics, and let's play a little bit of "Oh Christmas Tree" just as it's written in the sheet music to start, and then we'll solo over a little bit, and I'll try to emphasize a lot of the turnarounds. See if you can pick them out as we go through. There's several different kinds of turnarounds. And by the way, if you don't know what a turnaround is, it's basically moving from one chord to the next by choosing standard progressions to get us from one place to the other. And let's see if you can pick those out. All right, let's throw the mic off. I really like that comment. Plinio, so damn beautiful. I love that. I mean, that's the whole point, right, with jazz. You're just trying to make things as beautiful as you possibly can. And I think the interesting thing about this tune, and let me just say hi to a couple other people. Hey, Karen from our masterclasses, paid masterclasses. Nice to see you here. And Keith and James and a few others. Thanks for being here. I want to really focus on the turnaround. So what I'm going to do is just pull up a piece of what I call manuscript. And let me just, I have to do a couple things here. Give me a second. Because I had this thing open on my screen here. I'm going to shut that one off and then grab a screenshot of the manuscript so that we can write on it. And pretty much just ignore, for some reason, there's a 5/4 thing going on up here. I need to do it on this page. There we go. Just ignore the 5/4. We're going to just change that to 4/4. And so basically what a turnaround is, let's say we're at the end of the tune. And of course, this is going to be pretty rudimentary for many of you, but let me just explain. If we end on F, for example, the tune ends on F. And the turnaround typically for this tune, if you're doing an introduction, is that. But if you end on this during the tune, basically a 1-6-2-5 is the standard progression for that. 1-6-2-5 meaning root, 6th of the scale, 2 of the scale, 5 of the scale, and then back to 1. So 1, 6, 2, 5. So let's just write that on the screen, on the sheet music. Where did I put my pen? There it is, black on black. So 1, 6, 2, 5. And basically what you're going to do is 2 beats each. So the 1 chord is typically either a major 7 or a 6th. The 6th chord could be either minor 7 or it could be a dominant 7, and then 2 minor 7 to 5-7. Typically, flat 9 is a good extension for the 5-7 chord. So 1 major 7 to 2 minor 7. To 6 minor 7, which is D minor, to 2 minor, which is G minor, and then C7, flat 9, back to 1. So we're in the key of F, obviously. So F, D, G, C. One more time. F, D, G, C. So if we finish the tune during a solo section, for example, six, 2, 5, 1. So the interesting thing that I did there was I didn't actually end on 1. So that's the first real sign. If you want to keep the tune flowing, change this chord to 3. So we're going to write it down here. So that would be 3 minor 7 to 6 minor 7. And you can change that to a dominant 7th, then 2 minor 7, then 5-7. Okay? So that's the first thing. If you're not done the tune and you're in the middle of a solo, or you're moving from, for example, into the solo section, finish on 3. So So 3, and we'll talk about the tritone substitutions in just a moment. So the voicings for this are pretty simple. In the left hand, what I want you to do is just think about playing tenths. So this is our first tenth, This is the next one. The next one you might have to roll, and then down here. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm playing an eighth note before one, and then going down. You can go up here, or you can go down. Okay, so keep those left-hand voicings going. I think it's really nice as a solo piano player. Now, you wouldn't want to do that if you're playing with a trio. So that's really just a solo piano technique. It's like stride. And what's the eighth note for? Essentially what I'm doing is I'm playing an eighth note here before this beat of the bar. And then I'm doing the same thing on the next one and playing an eighth note heading to the next beat. Okay? And the reason why I'm doing that is because jazz is always on the end of the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 1, 2, and 1, 2, right? If that's really the way to start feeling that swing that we always talk about in these live streams. So in the right hand, what I want you to do is just play simple voicings that don't move too far around. So for example, here, and you could do the same voicing for D minor as well. And then you can play G minor 7 with a 9, and then C7 flat 9. So here. Okay. And then you can start experimenting with other voicings on top of that. Okay? And that's an exercise or a drill that you should just play about 1,000,000 times. Start with simple voicings. And then start your melody if you want to, or play some kind of melody over top of that, like a solo. And get really used to that 1-6-2-5, because that turnaround is the standard turnaround to get to 1 major 7 or 1-6. So at the end of any tune that ends on 1, take the last 2 bars and play some kind of 1-6-2-5 if the tune leads to 1. Okay? So this section here is all about getting, and I'm writing this on your screen, hopefully you can see it, getting to 1. So 1 major 7 or 1 major 6th. Okay? 1-6-2-5. I think that's pretty common, and a lot of you are probably thinking, wow, I thought I was going to learn something new. Well, I think this is new. I think that's a new way of looking at 1625, especially if you're playing solo piano. And of course, the voicings may be new. So obviously, they're pretty standard voicings, but if you learn something from that, that's great. Let's just check in quickly with you and see if you have any questions so far. Of course, questions are always welcome. Amodi says, nice voicings on top of the simple changes. Yes, I agree. Bonjour from Montréal. Hello, Serge. Comment ça va? Okay, so let's continue with Tina from New York. Great to see you. What I want to do now is let's just erase this from this sheet music. And then let's go to 2. So that's a turnaround for 1, and I'll talk about the tritone substitutions in a little bit, but I want to do the second common progression, and that is the destination chord is 2 minor 7. So a lot of tunes begin on 2. For example, last week we did Nancy with the Laughing Face. And then it gets to 1 on bar 4. But essentially, how do you get, if the tune ends on 1, how do you get to 2? Do you just go there automatically? And the answer is no. There's a turnaround for that. And the turnaround is you work back from 2 and you do a 2-5 of 2 minor, which is basically 3 minor 7 or minor 7 flat 5 to 6 7. And then let's say the tune ended on 1, so you go from 1 and then go back from 3 minor 7 and do 4. So this is a half step. This is a half step above. I need to erase that. That's a half step above the 3 minor chord. So if we're still in the key of F and we're trying to get to 2 minor 7, which is G minor, you're going to go 1 to 4, 4 7, or 4 major 7. Let's do 4 major 7. To 3, to 6, to 2 minor. And that's a standard progression as well. It's as common as 1625. Instead of that, it's 1, 4, 3, 6, 2. It follows the cycle of fifth, right? For those of you that are not familiar with the cycle of fifth, it basically goes, if we're doing the cycle of fifth in the key of C, start on C, and then just go down a fifth, right? Like we're... Right, you're just going down in fifths. So from C to F to B to E to A to D to G back to C. And so this follows the cycle of fifth, really. It just starts on 4. So in the key of C, you're going from C to F to 3 to 5 7 to 1 to 2 minor. Okay? So that's the 2 very standard turnarounds that we need. I think this one is not as common as you might think. I still play gigs with people where the tune starts in on the 2 minor chord, but bass players don't often play 1 4 3 6. So I'm not sure why that is. Maybe they're just not familiar with it, but I'm thinking it's just not as common. So 1 4 3 6. And if the tune started on 2, go to 4. Okay. Once again, let's check in and see if there's any questions. Amodi says, whoa, higher math. I don't know if it's higher math. It's just cycle of fifths. All right. Glad to see that you're communicating in the chat. If you have any comments or suggestions, please put them in there. It doesn't always have to be questions. And so I like the comments when they come, but I also like the questions when they come. All right. Just want to make sure this is still displaying on your screen. Yes, it is. Okay. So the next thing I want to do, let's erase this, and let's go a step more, because that's what we're all here for, right? We're all here to make great jazz progressions. So let's say we're going to 1, major 7. Okay? And if we're in the key of F, let's write F, major 7. Okay, so we need to get to F major 7, and the tune ends on F. So the last chord of the tune would be over here. Sorry. Over here. So tune ends on F. So this is like the last 2 bars of the tune. I should really be putting it down here, but I don't want to be off the screen. So 4/4, we're ending on F. So we know from our progression that we can do 1, 6, 2, whoops, 2, which is G, to 5, which is C. So the quality of the chord so far that we've learned is G minor 7 to C7 flat 9, and this chord was a D minor 7. So the first thing you want to do is change that D minor into D7. And the reason why we're doing that is because, listen to the tune. This is our D minor D7 flat 9 chord. And I like that voicing. So I'm going to play it again, but let's do D7 flat 9. And I'll tell you what else you can do with that to make it a better turnaround. So F minor, or sorry, D7 flat 9. So check this voicing out. You've got 1 and 3 in the left hand, 7 flat 9, and the 5th in the right hand. And where does this sound come from? So this is one thing that you can do with turnarounds, is before every chord, you can put a half step above that D7, which would be an E flat 7 chord. And that's where that sound comes from. This is E flat 7, right? With a 9th to a flat 9 of D7 flat 9. And that's right out of the sheet music. I'll show that to you in a little bit, but I think you heard it, right? It's a great sound. Okay, so that's the first thing you can do. You can change the 6th chord to a 7th with a flat 9 or sharp 9 or whatever you want. So if we did sharp 9, it would be this. That's a sharp 9, right? To G minor 7. Back to 1. We'll get to that progression in just a moment. But this is the first change that you can make. And it's very common at the end of a tune, because if the bass player is playing a D anyway, way down here, if this is the note the bass player is playing, you can play any chord over top of that as long as you're not conflicting with the guitar player. Because, you know, horn players are playing single notes, just the guitar player, or maybe a vibraphonist who might conflict and play a minor chord. By the way, if they do that, this is what that would sound like. So you're playing this. This is your chord. And then on top of that, you've got a guitar player playing this. So they don't really work very well, right? You got D minor over a D7 flat 9. Why? Because there's a bunch of flat 9s in there that just really great. So you can't really do that. So if you're doing turnarounds, you might want to discuss with the guitar player what they're playing and just kind of don't conflict. That's the problem with 2 chord instruments in a band, is they tend to like overlap each other, and I never liked that situation where the guitar player and the piano player are comping at the same time, because comping is an art form that is very specific to each of those instruments, and often the chord voicings are very different. So that's the first change. The next change you can do is change this chord into a G7 chord. So let's do that. Let's do F to D7 with a flat 9 or sharp 9, to G7, to C7 flat 9. Let's change the voicings. So that is a G7 flat 9 chord, right? So let's just play a G7. G7, C7 flat 9 to F. So that's an interesting sound. And then the next thing you can do with the G7 chord is you could put a flat 9 on it. Now the interesting thing about this flat 9 is if you look at the blues scale for F, that flat 9 is one of the most prominent notes in the blues scale, which is the minor third, so that you get that blues sound. So listen to this. Right? I mean, right there, that's going to make your playing sound more jazz. How many of you can hear that flat 3 of F, and how important it is to, when you change it to a G7 chord, to catch that flat 9? So let's do this whole progression, including the E flat 7 chord before the D7. So and just that, just that G7 flat 9 really lends itself to the blues scale and you playing some lines over top that. So I'm sure you often hear piano players fill the breaks, fill the turnaround. Okay. When this live stream is over, there is a replay automatically on YouTube. And what I would suggest is, I'm not going to take the time to discuss all of those voicings, but I played them pretty slowly. So it should be fairly simple for you to see what I'm doing and duplicate that. So let's do it just one more time really slowly. So F major 7 to D7, to E flat 7 to D7, and that's right out of the tune Oh Christmas Tree that we played earlier, to G7 flat 9 to C7 flat 9 to F. One more time. Okay. How fun is that? Just taking a simple progression and inserting some passing chords, in this case just an E flat 7, and altering the type of chord that comes next, which we just turned G minor into G7 flat 9. Thanks for the comment, Emoti. Jerry says, is the C7 flat 9 chord in the last bar of page 1 of the PDF an extra measure that is not included in the original tune? Hang on. I'm just going to check that. No, it's not an extra measure. It's a pause. So when you get to the end of the tune, I probably should show that. So how do we do that? Let's do it like this. There we go. So we're talking about this bar, and I can't write here because I want to do it quickly, but this bar is not an extra tune. What it is a 1-6-2-5. So I should actually do this. Give me a second. Let me do a screen snip and just show you what's happening here. And then I need to change that here. And then turn this one off. Right. Perfect. That should do it. So here we are down here at the last two bars of the tune. So this is the question, right? Is this an extra bar? This, oops, I need to be on this screen. Here, this bar right here. Right? Is this extra? Question mark. No. Basically, the turnaround here is F7 to D7 to G7 flat 9 to C7 flat 9. So we're applying the last progression that we just created, and you can add an E flat passing chord in there if you want to, but no, it's like a 1-6-2-5. In this case, after the introduction, because this is not played in time. So the last four bars six, 2, 5. Right? It's played rubato. There's that E7, E flat 7 or E flat 9 here going to the D7. And so it's just a pause on the C7 flat 9. But if we were playing the tune in time, it would be F to 6 to 2-7 flat 9. Okay. I hope that answers that question. Let's check back. There's more. So why did you insert it? Is it to facilitate a smooth transition to the solo on the next page? I didn't insert it, actually. There's nothing inserted. It's just a pause. And there's two bars there, 1-6-2-5, like I just explained. And it's not what I did. It's what Vince Guaraldi did. So this is a transcription of Vince Guaraldi's voicings, the actual chord voicings from the album A Charlie Brown Christmas and from the Christmas special itself. So that's why I wanted to post it and share it with you, because these are great voicings. I mean, the guy was a genius when it came to chord voicing. So I would definitely woodshed this arrangement and these changes, because it'll really help you. Okay. Amoni, you're welcome. I slowed it down, which is good. Hi, Paul. What do you play on the right hand? Just the continuation of the voicings of the left hand? Yeah, I mean, basically the philosophy, Lauren, is I'm playing shell voicings in the left hand. Shell voicings meaning either 1 and 7. So for example, I could do 1 and 7. Or I could do 1 the tenths. So these are basically shell voicings. And so that leaves the right hand to, you can duplicate those notes if you want to, but basically you're just playing inversions of chords. So for example, if it's F major 7, you're just playing inversions. And then D7 to G minor 7 to C7 flat 9. But the left hand is playing roots and thirds and fifths. That answers that question. How much do you care, this is from Tom, about voice leading, switching between drop 2 and 3, open and close voicings, playing notes in the bass? other than the root and not doubling it thirds and sevenths in a chord. Honestly, if I'm thinking drop 2 and drop 3, at this point, if you heard me play at the beginning, and I don't know if you were here at the beginning, Tom, but I basically played the tune and several choruses of solo. I'm not thinking drop 2 and drop 3, even when I'm playing block chords. I'm just playing chords within the scale. If there's duplication in the left hand, that's fine. If I was playing with the band, obviously, I'm playing rootless voicings in the left hand. Okay, but that is not a solo piano technique. What we want to do on solo piano is we want to cover the root. So the answer to your question is, how much do I care about switching drop 2 and drop 3? The answer is, I care about that 0, unless I was working out a very specific series of chords that was part of the melody. So if I wanted to reharmonize a melody, for example, let's think of a tune. So if I was doing like, right, and I was like trying to reharmonize the melody with block chords, and this is like drop 2, right? Right? What's the tune we're playing? That's just the first thing that popped into my head, so I had to think about it for a second. But basically, that's when I'm thinking drop 2 and drop 3. I'm working those things ahead of time. If I'm soloing, there is no drop 2 and drop 3 like thoughts at all in my head. I'm just doing this. I can tell you that whole sequence was a bunch of different inversions of chords using extensions, but not a single time did I think, oh, I hope I'm doing a drop 2 or a drop 3. I'm not thinking about it. My hands just go there because it's part of the chord. So I hope that answers that question. Hi, I'm 16, new to jazz, and your channel has been super helpful. Thanks for making learning fun. Hey, you're very welcome. Hey, Paul, what is rubato? Rubato means out of time. So when you're playing the introduction, this is not time. Some chords are longer than others. I'm going faster, slower. It's just slow with feeling. And then time. This is not rubato. Okay. I hope that explains rubato. The next thing I want to do is I want to talk about a really advanced progression just to kind of inspire those of you that are looking for the extra sound for jazz. And I'm going to go back and take a quick screenshot of my manuscript and start over. So I think we all know that 1, 6, 2, 5, and let's talk in the key of F, right? Let's change this to 4/4. So we're F, major 7, to G7, flat 9, to C7, or C minor 7. Oops, what am I doing? I'm thinking in the wrong key. F to D7 with a flat 9, to G minor 7, to C7, flat 9. Now, if we change this G minor 7 like we did before to a G7 chord, then all of these chords are dominant chords. So you've got D7 with a flat 9, G7 with a flat 9, C7 with a flat 9. Now, the tritones for D7 is this. The tritone for G7 is this. The tritone for C7 is this. What's a tritone? It's the third and the flat 7 of any chord. So let's do it up here. So D, dominant 7th, this is the tritone. It's the third and the flat 7 of any chord. That tritone, because of its dissonance, it's a very harsh thing. It's only good when surrounded by other things like this, right? It changes its quality as you add more notes to it, extensions, flat 9s, whatever. The fact that this is the third and the 7th, which are what we call guide tones, they want to resolve. So typically a D7 chord, the 7 would fall to become the third of the next chord. So D7 to G7, or to G major. Okay? So those guide tones are super important, the third and the flat 7, but they're interchangeable with one other chord, and that's what we call the tritone substitution, or short, tritone subs. And so if you look at a D7 chord, the tritone that shares that, the chord that shares that tritone, if you take this as the third instead of the 7th, that's the third of A flat. And this is the 7th of A flat. So this tritone and this tritone are the same. I'm just moving the up. So one is 3 in flat 7 of D, and one is 3 in flat 7 of A flat. It's the same chord. And so the reason why that's important is because if you change the bass note, you change the bass note, you're changing the whole feeling of the chord. So from F to D is this. If you went to A flat, it's the same chord, it's just a different bass note. Listen to the difference between those two chords. So this is F. This is D7 with a sharp 9. If we change it to an A flat, it sounds like this instead of this. And the bass note basically falls in half steps. So F to A flat to G7 to G flat, which is the tritone substitution of C7, right? To F. You could even do G flat major 7 if you wanted to, but basically we're not going to do that. We're going to do F to A flat to G7 to G flat 7. So you can actually, it becomes easier as a piano player to play those voicings. So F major 7, let's play these voicings in the right hand. Let's do fifths or fourths on F major 7. So the 7th, the 3rd, and the 13th. Lovely voicing here. And let's go up here just a little bit to D7 sharp 9. To G7 with a 13, to C7 with a sharp 9. So look, you're just going down in half steps. Each note just falls a half step. And that makes it actually more interesting as from a listening perspective, but easier for you as a piano player. So to D7. Okay. Now, you don't want to just do that all day long. What you want to do is you want to change the quality of the chord. So not always a D7 sharp 9 or an A flat with a 13. So F major 7, like this. Listen to that chord. That's still a D7. I'm just adding sharp 11 on top. This note really here is the odd man out. To G7, to F, to G flat, to F. And then C7 sharp 11. You probably heard me do that, right? Listen to this. There's the A flat, right? This is G flat 7 with a sharp 11, this chord here. Okay? So let's write that out. Tritone subs would be F to A flat 7 to G7 to G flat 7 or F sharp 7, however you want to look at it. I think the two are the same, back to F. So our turnaround using tritone subs is F, A flat, G7, G flat 7 to F. And so when you get into the solo section of Oh Christmas Tree and you want to do a turnaround at the end, you can use that turnaround instead of the original one. Let's do that. Let's do the last day section. Once again. So 1, flat 3, 2, flat 7, or sorry, flat 2 to 1. How cool is that? So now at your fingertips, or at least in your head, you've got a lot of different choices for turnarounds. Remember, a turnaround is simply getting from one place to another chord, typically from 1 back to 1 at the end of a tune, or from 1 to 2 minor at the beginning of the tune if you're starting the tune in 2 minor. So for example, if our first chord was G minor and we ended on F, 4 to 3 to flat 2, or sorry, to flat 3 to 1, to 2 minor, sorry. So that's our 1, 4, 3, 6. So instead of 3 going to 6 up here, you're going to flat 2, or flat 3, as it were. Okay? So all of these are interchangeable. And the reason why I think people were saying, hey, just beautiful at the beginning is because I use all of them. It's not like I'm constantly using the same turnaround. I'm using different ones even in the middle of the tune. If I'm getting to the bridge, for example, this is the second day. And then I'm doing a turnaround to get to 3. So B flat to A. Three, 6, 2, 5. And then I want to hang out on 5. Right? 3, flat 3, 2, flat 2. Now I'm going to 3 at the beginning of the bridge, so I go 5 to 4. Even here's a turnaround, right? Because most people would just stay on the 2. I'm going to 6, 7. 6, 7 to 2. That was our tritone subs. Throwing in a kind of cool chord there. Three, 6, 2, 3, 6, to 2, to 5, to 3, to 6, flat 3, sorry, to 2, flat 2, to 1. So I'm constantly thinking about what the next chord is and throwing different inversions and tritone substitutions in front of those chords to make interesting jazz sounds. That's what turnarounds are all about. I do want to share one more thing with you, and I know that time is ticking on here and we're having a lot of fun. At least I'm having fun explaining it to you. Let's check in and see if there's a couple of questions. Thanks for covering the block chord voicings. They are always a favorite of part of your solos. Thank you. I currently have an online piano academy for beginner to intermediate learners. Oh, good for you. So you're here picking up some tips, I think. Good. I've been doing, I mean, for those of you that are helping other people, you are absolutely welcome to borrow this stuff. The only thing that I would recommend is that the free sheet music, if you're going to like use it for teaching, that you might want to just, I don't know, make a donation to the channel. I make that sheet music available for you. It's not necessarily made to distribute to all of your students. Or have them make a donation to the channel. That'd be kind of cool. Excellent tuition, Paul. Really good training for the ears. You're very welcome. Okay. So I did want to cover something else, and we're going to go past the hour. Right now we have 6 minutes left before the hour. And we're going to go past that because I just love to play and explain things. And I want to do one more thing. And this is something that I actually tried to help the paid masterclass group. And before I do that, actually, let me share something with you. If you downloaded the sheet music, then you received an email from me. And I want to explain the email. Basically, I'm giving you the first 2 pages of Oh Christmas Tree, but there's more. So what I did was I turned it into a trio arrangement. So there's bass, drums, and piano written out on a score, but there's also 2 choruses of solos. So if I'm soloing like this, right? If I'm soloing, I've actually written out 2 choruses. And in addition to that, there's a backing track which I made, bass and drums backing track. And the bass player is playing, so it helps you practice. And there's also a MIDI file if you want to like tear it apart, put it in your own system, and do whatever you want with it. In addition to that, it's typically $14.95, but I sent you an email. If you go there now, I took $5 off, so it's only $9.95. But because it's Black Friday, use the Black Friday coupon code, and I'm going to type that in your chat area here. It's Jazz Mental, and it's Jazz. I have to capitalize it. Jazz Mental B Friday 50. 50 meaning, I don't know, 2 for 1. So if you actually use that coupon code that I just put in the chat area, then you can go and grab this whole package for like $10 and get another package or another sheet music or whatever of equal value or less for $10. So meaning like 2 packages for the maximum of $10. So go grab the email. It's part of the Black Friday thing, and I also discounted this whole package. So that's quite a deal. I'm throwing it out there because it really helps us here at the channel. All right, the last thing I want to explain is this. Let's go back to this. As soon as I find my pen, I'm going to erase all this. Take a look at your screen. And what I want to do is I want to do 1, 6, 2, 5. I don't care what the chords are, but I want to run a bass line. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a bass line on quarter notes like this. And I'm not going to write them in because it's going to take too long. But basically what I want you to do is and that is really a feel thing. So for example, if we're walking the bass line with those chords, So what we're doing is we're taking our 1-6-2-5 turnaround and we're putting in a bass line. So what you want to do is you want to approach the D chord from a half step below, and for the G and the C, a half step above, and a half step above F. Up, down, down, down. So F. Okay, and just shed that all day long. And then in addition to that, I want you to throw in some eighth notes. Here. And here. So what you're doing is you're using this progression, and then when you go a half step above G, skip back to the D. Go to 3. And the reason why I want you to do that is I want you to get used to hearing what bass players do, but I also want that feel to stick inside of you. If you can't do that, it means you haven't got the swing feel completely internalized yet. And that's why this little exercise. Now, I gave this to the paid masterclass people the other day, so this is really a bonus for you. Actually, we were doing it in minor, and there was a lot of other steps, but basically, I just wanted to introduce it to you because it's feel. You don't have to do this skip every time. But it's nice when you throw it in. And if you, obviously, I mean, it's not a tune, it's a turnaround, but if you just do that, that's how to get the feel of any swing tune, is to play that turnaround. Now, you can do it in any key you want, but let's switch it to G major. I said I might get there eventually. Okay, so it doesn't really matter what the key is, that progression still holds true. Now, it's going to be a little bit harder as you get into more sharps and more flats, but the process is exactly the same. So what I want to do now, because we have some more time, and by the way, thank you all for hanging out. For those of you that have been here since the beginning, thank you. Much appreciated. Martin says, isn't the... I don't understand the question, Martin. You're going to have to explain it a little clearer. Isn't the from above a note suggesting a tritone sub from above? Oh, this? Oh, I see what you mean. It is suggesting a tritone sub. Yes. So that would be a passing chord. So F, A flat to G, to D flat to C, to G flat. Right? Good call. It is, except I'm not really thinking about that. I'm more thinking about how to run a bass line that makes sense. If we were to play all of those chords, it would be like this. Let me think. Like that. But that's not, as far as that's not really the point of the exercise. The point of the exercise is to play half step below D and then above for the rest. And get that skip in there. To me, that's going to really help with your feel more than anything. Let me play a little bit in the key of G. And in this particular case, there is a 1-6-2-5 progression. Sorry, a 1-4-3-6 to 2, because it's part of the tune, and the tune I'm going to be playing is I'll Be Home for Christmas. So let's see if you can hear all of the turnarounds within the tune and at the end of the tune. And Martin says that does make the bass line powerful. I agree. One more question before I play. I'm still puzzled by how you use the double stop where you play with your fifth finger on the right hand, whatever blues notes you're playing below it. Is there a rule? No, there's no rule. I think it's more like the root and the fifth. It's basically coming from gospel music. If you look at this, I mean, that's a very typical gospel progression, right? Resolving one dominant 7 to the 1-6 to 5, right? So plagal cadence, dominant cadence, plagal cadence to 1, okay? So because of this melody note being the root, it makes a good double stop note, meaning 2 notes at the same time. But if we were to do this, so this is a double stop using thirds, but that's pretty typical blues, right? This is sixth, double stops. So you've got double stops against the fifth, against the root. You've also got thirds, and then you've also got sixths. And you can use those interchangeably. So let's do... So this is 5, right, of D. Sorry, that was fourths. You can do that as well. Thirds, double stops on the root, and then on the fifth. So those are the most rules that I can think of. Mostly, they're just over time you learn these little jazz licks that kind of add bluesy feels to your playing. I hope that answers that question. What about enclosures, triplets, approaching notes in the bass occasionally mixed with this rhythm? Yeah, I mean, these are really just short enclosures, right? Those are enclosures, right? You're going from above the note. You could go from above. You can go from above and then from below. So there are enclosures. So think about them like that. I think that's actually good. Okay, let's play I'll Be Home for Christmas, because we're getting like Black Friday was yesterday. We're getting very close to Christmas. So let me just play I'll Be Home for Christmas in the key of G, and let's see how much progressions you can pick out, how much turnarounds, okay? Because I'm going to really do a lot. Okay, let's try it. I think, unless there are any other questions, I think let's end it for today. It's been a lot of fun going through these turnarounds with you. I hope you got a lot of value. Oops, I need to turn the mic on. I forgot to turn the mic on. Sorry about that. I think in terms of today, I've pretty much covered what I wanted to cover. I like, and if I went back to it and I think about what we did cover, I think, in my mind, got out what I wanted to get out. There's obviously more. I sent you an email. I would definitely go purchase that transcription because it does include a lot of the soloing ideas that I do. And learning solos from other players is one great way to kind of take a shortcut and understand how solos are put together. In terms of the facial expressions, according to Middle C, I can't really help myself because I'm really not just thinking, but I'm feeling the music and I'm hearing the music, and obviously facial expressions, I think, are a big part of that. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that I do, and my face might get contorted at times, but that's just because I'm so into it that I can't really help it. Enrique, thank you so much. You're very welcome. One more question. Use of the dominant half step above another dominant. Any guidelines there? The only thing that I would say is if you're using a tritone substitution, it immediately lends itself to using sharp 11 chords. So for example, if we're going 3, 6, 2, 5 of F, and this is flat 3 to 2, to 5, 7, or to 2, flat 2, 7 instead of 5, 7. This is the fifth of the root, but it's also the sharp 11. So think sharp 11 chords, right? 3 to 6, to flat 3, 7, sharp 11, to 2, to either 5, 7, sharp 11, or flat 7, sharp 11. So sharp 11 chords are definitely some of the most pretty things that you can put into your playing to kind of help you make better jazz sounds. For everyone that commented and participated today, I appreciate it very much. Please take a look at the email that I sent you all if you downloaded the sheet music. If you didn't download the sheet music, it's pinned to the top of the chat and it's there. I'm going to take that down momentarily so you won't be able to get it for free anymore. But you will get an email from me, and if you want to purchase the entire package, I'd really appreciate it. It goes a long way to helping us here produce these types of tutorials. And again, for everybody that hung out with me, thanks. We will see you same time, same place next Saturday. Take care, everyone. You're the best.